Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have the pleasure of Sri P V Prabhakar Rao Garu, son of former Prime Minister Sri P V Narasimha Rao Garu. Prabhakar Rao Garu, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar. Thanks for calling me on your show.
It is my pleasure, sir. Viewers, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions to know about your beloved Prime Minister. It is something of an incredible journey that he had, and Sri Prabhakar Rao Garu had a ringside seat for the most part as his dad was, progressing in his political career. So we are going to have a very heart-to-heart discussion about the life of Sri P V Narasimha Rao as seen through his son. And I want to just set the context up, sir. It is believed that you will know your real friends only when you are in times of trouble. So between 1977 and 1980, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi lost the elections, there was a party split. Many people left Indira Gandhi and started their own version of Congress. And Indira Gandhi was sort of, licking her wounds, if you will, because there were lots of cases going on, a lot of stuff. She was going through a lot of turmoil. And at that time, Sri Narasimha Rao Garu used to go and meet with her almost every day for 1.5 to 2 hours, 77 to
That's
80,
right.
3 years. 3 years.
That's right.
So, sir, I got this information from another conversation you had with another anchor. So I just wanted to regurgitate this here because from 1980, when Mrs. Gandhi came back to power, Narasimha Rao Garu was one of the closest confidants. And people say, and I've read this, I could be wrong, that he practically ran the government from 1980 onwards for Mrs. Gandhi. How do you remember those days, sir?
Well, after the elections of 1980, he was given External Affairs Ministry, as you know. I think I need to tell you something about this background. Perhaps you're interested in knowing. Sir Narasimha Rao never wanted External Affairs Minister. That should be news to all of you. So the day it was announced that you should take over as a minister, so he went there and took the oath. And somebody in the evening told him that you are being given External Affairs Ministry. So that evening he was little uncomfortable. He was telling all of us that he doesn't drink. He's a teetotaler, as many may know, and he was not a very outgoing person. So, and he had no experience of a diplomat. So I was wondering how he would fit into that department. So he called up Mr. Dhawan and told him whether he could change his portfolio. So Mr. Dhawan told him, okay, come over, we'll talk to Madam Gandhi. So the next day he went there and then he was taken inside Madam's office, and Madam asked him, why do you want to change your portfolio? And he said the same. They repeated the same thing. He said, my experience, is in a different field altogether. So I don't know how I can fit into this particular portfolio. So she, I believe, pondered over, this request, and she told him, okay, Mr. Narasimha Rao, can you find somebody equally competent, as good as you are? Then I don't mind changing your portfolio. So he got the cue that she's not going to change. She made up her mind, you see. So that's how, he said, I believe, okay, madam, I will take up the challenge and then, I will continue this portfolio. See. So, that's how we got into External Affairs Ministry. And that was a very important portfolio that time. A lot of things were happening that time, especially on the non-aligned movement. And he was playing a very important role. And he literally, he was taking all the initiative from India's side. And as you just mentioned in the previous year, 3 years, spending so much of time with her, trying to understand the governance and all that. So she slowly started depending on him on all major issues. That's how, as you very rightly put, uh, perhaps he was handling most of the issues of that time. Yeah, got it.
So, sir, I can tell you, he was a Mridu Bhashi, meaning
Absolutely.
soft-spoken person. And he
That's right.
knew 14 languages, 3 programming languages on top of that, 17
Mhm.
languages he learned on his own. And
That's right.
that, in my book, sir, is excellent qualifications to be a external affairs minister. But think about it. He is talking with the Spanish prime minister. Okay.
Yeah,
He will listen to what the helper is telling him in Spanish. He'll know what the
that's
other
right.
guy is thinking. So that's a big
Exactly.
step. You are always one step ahead. So let us fast forward to 1984, the unfortunate assassination of Mrs. Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi comes to power. And Rajiv Gandhi is a man in a hurry. He wants to bring in a lot of changes, usher in a lot of changes. And
Yes.
then there was an interesting conversation that was taking place between Rajiv Gandhi and a visitor, and your dad happened to be there. Could you recall what happened at that time, sir?
Yeah, this is what my father told me that on one particular evening when he was with Rajivji's office, he was with him. He was talking to some visitor, in the office, and he was telling him that he wanted to bring in a lot of technology. He himself was a technology savvy person. So he was wondering how the old guard would react to that. He overheard this conversation. That evening he called me up and he told me, Prabhakar, you were talking about computers sometime back when I was in Hyderabad. Um, do you have any samples with you? So we prepared 3 samples for our own study. So I said, I can spare one to you if you want it. He said, yes, please send it immediately. So next day I sent it to him, and he immediately called me up and he said, can you arrange one person who can teach me, some basics of this. So I talked to a friend of mine in Delhi, and he spent a few days with him, not more than that. And he told him that's not good enough. Just get me some books that I'll try to manage. And believe me, 6 months later, he was telling me, I'm now comfortable with computers. I'm absolutely okay with that. And I believe he was trying to, give a lesson or two, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi himself on computers. You see, that much of mastery is developed in a matter of 6 months. See, that shows the person's what you call, yearning for learning. Shraddhavan labhate gyan. So he always believed in this, Sanskrit, adage that one who has, what do you call interest to learn, who is committed to learn, definitely he will, benefit by knowledge. That's what his, motto was in his life. Yeah.
It's really intriguing when you say this, sir, because I was working in India at that time, 84, 85 time frame, and a friend of mine was actually helping Rajiv Gandhi learn computers. HP
Mhm.
made a new computer system called the Butterfly, and it did
Okay.
not break off. But HP wanted to impress Rajiv Gandhi, so they shipped out like the first 7 models that they could find, seven, in computers, and it was installed
Mhm.
in Rajiv Gandhi's home. And somebody needed to teach him how to use that. And one of my friends was the person who was doing it. I used to work with HP at that time, and
Okay.
it was very interesting conversations we've had, and how Rajiv Gandhi was coming up to speed with this butterfly computer. Unfortunately, that
Okay.
computer never really took off. So we don't know.
That's
It was
true.
not the butterfly, but IBM PC that really took off from there. So
Yeah, that's right.
interesting.
That's right.
So, sir, interesting.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead, please. You want to say something?
Yeah, if you as someone goes to his study room, those days, he would find. I mean, until 2004, until he passed away, he collected every possible computer, whichever was available in the market. You would see a dozen or maybe 2 dozens of them, starting from 1984 model to 2004, the latest computer. He was so fond of computers. So I think it only shows his interest in various subjects. That's it. Mhm.
So, viewers, we are taking a few questions for Sri Prabhakar, but I really want to listen to him talk about his dad in this conversation. So, please send in your questions. I'll let you know when we are done, when we have reached the enough amount. Now, the other thing that we are going to talk about today is in the period from 84 to 89. Sri Narasimha Rao again, he was in one ministry, he kept moving to other. I think he was also defense minister for some time during Rajiv Gandhi.
Yes, for some time, exactly.
So perhaps you can share a little bit about those days also.
Yeah, he was there as defense minister for a brief time, but he spent a lot of time on HRD, Human Resource Development Ministry, and that was one department which was introduced for the first time in India. Many thought that perhaps Mr. Narasimha Rao was it is not a promotion for him. But then when they really saw the department, the kind of way departments which were attached to that, it was such a huge, humongous department that it was like a big thing, absolutely, which was hitting his face, such a huge one, you see, covering from starting from health ministry to education and so many subjects in that. So he really has done wonderfully well in this HRD, and now I think they're trying to bring it back in the form of education ministry right now, and the new education policy which was brought in, which was in vogue until a few months ago or a few weeks ago, was brought in by Mr. Narasimha Rao in 1984. It was called as New Education Policy, and one of the finest of those days. I think he'll be remembered for that.
So, viewers, I urge you to buy two books from the market. If you're in India, you can get it in India in bookstores. The first one is called The Insider by Sri Narasimha Rao. It is sort of like a fiction, but if you start reading the book, you will know who he's talking about. And it's essentially his life story up until I think he becomes the prime minister. And for knowing what happened during his prime ministerial reign, there was another book by Vinay Sitapati called as Half Lion, Half Narasimha, translated literally into English. So perhaps you can share a little bit of your experiences helping Vinay Sitapati write that, because he took up that after Sri Narasimha Rao ji had passed away.
Yeah, it was in 2016, I think, he came to me. He was introduced by one of the close friends, of family, Mr. P V Prabhakar. And he said, this gentleman wants an interview with you. So when he came here, I told him, why do you want an interview? After all, he said, I'm writing a book on Mr. Narasimha Rao. I said, if you're really serious about writing a book, would you like to spend time with me? Then, just one interview is not going to be enough, because such a great man, you can't describe him in one interview. So he said, I'm prepared. There are no issues about that. I'm prepared to come and spend as much time as you want. And I told him that it's going to take a long time, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months. And he was prepared for that. So I gave him 20 interviews, actually. And I told him one thing very clearly, that, I don't give interviews to politicians. Since you are a Princeton, scholar, and you want to do unbiased work on Mr. Narasimha Rao, I am prepared to show all the documents. You don't have to take any of my word for granted. I'll back it up with every document, and then you come to your conclusion. But when you are about to put down your final thoughts, please show it to me. We'll have a discussion again, and then you can go ahead with your work. And you do this work, and really documents have shown to him. He very painstakingly went through all that, and the outcome is known to everyone. It's one of the finest books which he's written. I think he has sold more than 100,000 copies of that. One of the top-selling, book, which is available in the market now. So I
And
think it's pretty authentic, I would say.
thank you, sir. And I can
Yeah.
tell you, I read that in one sitting. One sitting.
Oh,
I just
that's
couldn't stop turning the pages. Incredible
wonderful.
insight into the man, and you've done a lot of work in trying to show Vinay how to navigate those political waters, because it was happening after the fact, and it
Yeah,
was just an incredible effort. It will probably go down as one of the best books written on politics in India. Now,
that's right.
sir, I want to now step back to 1991. Narasimha Rao Garu has decided that he's going to retire because Rajiv Gandhi evidently told him that, I think, it's time to move on or something to that effect. I mean, I can let you recollect your thought, but one thing that struck me was Rao Garu was not at the incident where in Sri Perumbudur. Yet,
Yes.
he wrote a two-page summary of what happened, just listening to IB probably and a few other people. To me, that is the most accurate description of how things went down in Sri Perumbudur. I mean, I've read a few documents. I'm just curious, right? Your prime minister, just like that, gets assassinated, or somebody who was your prime minister. So I read that thing. His two-page recollection of what happened was one of the most accurate. So, how did you see? Maybe you can tell us what those years where he was going to retire and then life took a sharp U-turn and he came back as a prime minister.
Yeah, it was in 1990 when he developed, a heart problem. You know, he was, he was a patient for a surgery. So we took him to US. We went to Houston, and Denton Cooley operated on him. And I'll tell you something very interesting. Uh, the day after he recovered from the surgery, the first thing what he mentioned said, "My life should have ended a week ago. I think God has given me some extra life. Um, I think there's a purpose. I don't know what it is, but there's something else which I need to do. Perhaps it's an unfinished mission which I have to complete now." These are the words which he has said the moment he, became conscious. I was very, very, I was really taken aback. I said, just don't bother about it, just relax. And after return to Hyderabad, I had been to Delhi. He was just recovering from the operation, and there was one person very close to him, Swamiji from Kutralam. So he was pretty close to him. Used to come to a house, stay in a house for a few months and all that. That was the time when he visited Mr. Narasimha Rao, and he said, "Now you are retiring and you want to write books. So why don't you come to Kutralam? It's a nice place. You have a scenic beauty everywhere. So that probably is the right place for you to come and spend your time." And he said, "I'm also getting old. I'm 82 years old now, and I want to declare a successor. And you are, you're spiritual in your attitude. So perhaps would you consider becoming my successor as the Peethadipati, you see?" So my father didn't say no. I mean, he didn't refuse the face value. He said, "Let me think it over." And he was really considering that issue, that proposal. And when this incident took place, this unfortunate incident of Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, and things were totally different after that. You see, he was, as you say, he was in a different. I think he was in Nagpur that time, and when he heard about this incident, and then he rushed to Delhi, and of course the incidents which took place immediately after that, people are well aware that is all history. So actually, you look at that, ups and downs of his life. Here's a person who wanted to retire, he wanted to become a Swamiji, and suddenly, is pushed onto the center stage, and then he becomes prime minister of the country. That's fate. That's probably how things work. That's the ways of God.
Yes, yes, indeed. And his reign of 5 years was perhaps one of the most difficult periods in India's history. If you just look at the number of things that he had to face and solve, starting with the economic crisis, the 1991 no confidence motion speech, wherein he mentioned a Sanskrit line, Sarvanashe Samutpanne, Artham Tyadati Panditaha. I'm sorry,
Pandita. Yeah.
Panditaha. So perhaps you can a little bit walk us through what was going on during that time. How did this line get about inserted? Because you see, it is contextually, it is one of the most appropriate lines to be said there. So somebody must have been thinking about this, and I'd just like your thought on how did you come about to write that line?
Yeah. So as you very rightly said, someone sits down to write the history of post-independence. They have to write in two parts. I always say this, you see. One prior to Mr. Narasimha Rao and one after Mr. Narasimha Rao. And the 5 years of Mr. Narasimha Rao are the most eventful years in the post-independence era. And the day he took over as a prime minister, we all know what the background was. We had these Mandal Masjid issues and people self-immolating and then Rath Yatras crisscrossing the country. This was a scenario, and economy in very, very, very bad shape. And the basic problem in the economy was the loans which they have taken earlier. Basically a BOP problem. The loans which they had taken earlier had to be repaid in dollars, which they didn't have. As simple as that. So they wanted to take a raise loan from IMF and various other agencies, and IMF spelled out its own terms and conditions. So people were saying that we are pledging our country. You know how the leftists talk. You see, they've been saying that it's complete washout, and then you're pledging the honor of the country, and all sorts of things. You see, so that was a time when he introduced, as you know, the budget was presented by Manmohan Singh ji, but the industrial policy was introduced by Mr. Narasimha Rao. So he made a statement, that if you don't do these reforms, you don't put these reforms in place, then there's a good possibility that we lose everything. So instead of that, perhaps we give in to some of the conditions and terms of these agencies and retain the rest of it. So that's what it means. The entire it's a shloka what just mentioned. You see, it means that a wise man would give away something and retain the rest of it. It's a matter of crisis where you have to lose everything. You see, so that is what he was trying to convey through his shloka. And he also went on to say that it's a Mahaprasthana. The Mahaprasthanam in Mahabharata, it says it's a journey to a new world. So he was saying this entire in embarking on this economic reforms was a Mahaprasthanam. It's a journey into a new world, and it did happen to be that way. It was a new world altogether, new new infrastructure, economic infrastructure, which was built subsequently, which has really done wonders for the country.
Thank you for that very lucid explanation, sir. And see this spiritual thinking while approaching day-to-day problems. He's always been a hallmark of really great leaders. I'm not talking about prime ministers or anything, but people who have read their scriptures, their shastras. It always helps you to get a slightly different, perhaps more balanced perspective about life. And I see that again and again in his work. I mean, this is just my opinion, of course. So, sir, let us move on towards what happened after he quit as the prime minister. He had some personal challenges that he had to face. There were some lawsuits, wasted, whatever. He went through a lot of turmoil there because he just had to redeem his name to make sure that none of these things are let loose hanging. Why is it that Sonia Gandhi, who probably saw Sri Narasimha Rao as a daily visitor, because 77 to 80 he was there with Indira Gandhi.
Madam
He was
Gandhi.
there, Madam Gandhi, and also he was there with Rajiv Gandhi. So, why is it that she really developed this kind of animus? I don't know if that is the right word to say, towards Sri Narasimha Rao.
I would put it this way, see, as you all know, after the assassination of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, the entire, his cabinet colleagues went to Sonia ji and offered the presidentship of Congress Party. And she very clearly said that, I'm new to politics. In fact, I didn't want my husband also to get into politics. That's all. That's on record. Everyone knows that. So just leave me alone. I'm not interested in politics. That's how Mr. Narasimha Rao took over, because he was a senior most then. He was a Hindi-speaking person. He knew so many languages of the country, and he was a person who wrote the manifesto. So they thought he'll be the right person. That's how he took over as president. And when it came to prime ministership, there were a lot of people from South who got elected in the second phase. As you know, there were two phases. When he took over as a president, it was the second phase of elections which were going on. So in the second phase of elections, Congress fared better, and most of them were from South, so they wanted Mr. Narasimha Rao. Almost 89 MPs wanted Mr. Narasimha Rao there. And for some reason, Sonia ji wanted Shankar Dayal Sharma to be the prime minister. It's also on record. Mr. Natwar Singh, in his book, he writes it very clearly. But then there was, consensus taking, program wherein two of the senior colleagues, one is Karunakaran and Shankar Dayal, Sharath, what's his name? Mr. Ray, Mr. Ray from Siddharth Shankar Ray. Both were asked to collect the opinion of majority. See. So when they were collecting opinion from one-on-one, Ms. Narasimha Rao emerged to be the clear-cut leader. And Ms. Sonia Gandhi also very graciously said, "Yeah, I have no objection about Ms. Narasimha Rao, and let's go ahead." But then what happened after that? That's the important thing which we have to know. See, there were other contenders like Mr. Arjun Singh, Mr. Sharad Pawar, and they were also planning to probably become the prime ministers. And they all thought that this is going to be a temporary affair. Mr. Narasimha Rao, is not really well, physically. He's an ailing person. Perhaps he will not survive, the entire 5 years. But as things turned out, he was going stronger and stronger and consolidating his position. So obviously, there's going to be a dissidence and there will be detractors. So they went to Mrs. Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi. They started telling her, carrying all sorts of, tales about Mr. Narasimha Rao, trying to tell her that he has deviated from Nehruvian path, and that was trying to undermine the previous prime ministers of the Congress party, and he's not coming and taking your advice, he's sidelining you, and all sorts of these tales. They were. It's not that they were not telling similar things to Mr. Narasimha Rao. Narasimha Rao, being a very matured politician, he just dismissed them. But I don't know about the other side. Probably Mrs. Gandhi took it very seriously. And, perhaps she bore that in her mind. And when she became prime minister, and by that time, Mr. Narasimha Rao, she became the president of the party. By then, Mr. Narasimha Rao demitted his office, and he was entangled in all sorts of legal wrangles. That was the time when all these detractors got together. And they said this is the time when Mr. Narasimha Rao has to be cut to size. And how do you cut the person to size? You have to attribute something to him. And that was, your Babri Masjid issue came very handy. So they said, his silence that time, particular time, led to this demolition of, the Babri Masjid. And because of him, we have lost the election in 1996. And although they got 140 seats, they said it's much less than what we got earlier. And it's all because of Mr. Narasimha Rao, because he didn't do much about the demolition, and a section of our voters are refusing to vote for us. And this is how they started, blaming him, and the blame game went on, and suddenly, he was sidelined, and they said, talking about about him is a big sin, and all those things have happened. You see. So it's primarily, I don't know about Mrs. Gandhi, because I asked Mr. Narasimha Rao several times, is there anything wrong between you and Mrs. Gandhi? And most of the time, he used to laugh it out and say, just don't bother about it. But on one occasion, he said, perhaps, my good work is not, he's hurting them. If it hurts them, there's very little I can do about it. But then it's mostly the detractors or the people who were trying to carry tales. Perhaps they are responsible for this misunderstanding, I feel. They were trying to drive a wedge between them, and they were successful in that. I would put it that way.
So towards the end of the relationship between Narasimha Rao Garu and Sonia Gandhi, they weren't very cordial. In fact, again, the book Half Lion details all that stuff in great amount of detail, and urge viewers to read that book. But let us talk about Rao Garu passes away, and his body is being brought to be laid at the Congress party office. What really happened there, sir? I mean, every prime minister, every president of the party, I believe, has been always laid to rest in the party office.
Well, as I just mentioned, it was, a game plan of the detractors. They probably convinced her that, if the last rites are done in Delhi, then you have to make a samadhi there. You see, then there'll be a lot of visitors from outside, outside the country, would be visiting him, and then probably, they'll be talking about him. There'll be, the birth and anniversary, death anniversary, which we'll have to perform, and there'll be gatherings there when we have to talk about him once again. You see. They probably try to convince her that he has grown too big for his shoes. Probably his place is somewhere in Hyderabad, and that's what they have tried their best, to send the body. They were successful, I would say, in sending the body back to Hyderabad. You see. It was very unfortunate, you see. It's not the question of whether the body was taken inside the Congress headquarters or not. That's of material, it's of not much of a consequence. What really hurts all of us is a person who has spent entire life, 60 long years of his life for the party. Until the last minute, until the last breath, he was only talking about the Congress party. His body was not given this, this privilege, wherein, whereas much lesser leaders compared to Mr. Narasimha Rao, their bodies were taken inside, and time was given for people to come and pay respects and all that. It hurts the family that for a person of his stage and his contributions, to sideline him like that and then send the body to Hyderabad, where he was, actually was fully entitled to have, his last rites in Delhi, like other prime ministers. No, he didn't. He was not given that privilege. It hurts the family that you see.
It must have really been, painful, because losing somebody so dear to you, and then being told that no, you have to take the body back to Hyderabad, and
Yes.
it's a very sorry feeling. I mean, I can understand the pain, sir. I just want to have a couple of questions. So there is a PVN Samadhi now in Hyderabad. How many times do you think any UPA minister came and visited the place?
Well, that's a question which everybody is asking these days, you see. Ever since 2004, after his body was, sent here and this last rites were done here, not a single, leader from Delhi or his cabinet colleagues, including, Dr. Manmohan Singh, was so dear to him. They have visited his samadhi in Hyderabad. Although they came to Hyderabad several times, you see. Mrs. Gandhi came here a few times, Dr. Manmohan Singh came here a few times, and, Raulji came here so many times. And his cabinet colleagues, so many of them came so many times here. But, it's very surprising, and, that, people did not find 10 minutes time to go and pay respects there. You see. That really, if people are talking, you have given a scope for them to talk. I would say that way. You see. So 10 long years, 16 long years is too much of a time. You see, they could have, paid the respects, which was really due. 16 years, one of them could have come. So we feel sorry for that. You see.
Let's talk about Sri Manmohan Singh now. See, I have pieced this together from various conversations and various TV interviews. There were many occasions when Manmohan Singh, as finance minister, wanted to resign because he could not take the heat the opposition was throwing at him. And Raoji stood behind him like a rock. And,
Yes.
and there is one interesting conversation that I picked up somewhere where Sri Vajpayee, who was the opposition leader, he said something really harsh at Manmohan Singh. And this poor man is close to tears, and they are going out. And Vajpayee comes and, touches him on the shoulder and say, listen, do what you're doing. Sometimes I have to say these things as part of politics.
Yeah. In fact, he said, this is the time you have to develop thick skin. You have to In fact, I would clarify your statement just now. He was not hurt by what others, the opposition was saying, because that is a duty, you see. Dr. Manmohan Singh was upset because MPs from, Congress party were talking ill of him. You see, they were saying that he's not doing the right thing, and they were talking all sorts of things behind him and before him. That hurt him a lot, and twice it happened, not once. Twice he was about to resign, but my father had sent a person who was close to both of them, and he convinced him that the country is first. See, we may get a new finance minister, all right, but the economic reforms what have been taken up, you can't leave them in between. You see, after all, your egos are secondary to the interests of the country. That's how they convinced him, and very gracefully agreed to continue.
Viewers, I would also draw your attention to a video that shows Sri Manmohan Singh being sworn in as Prime Minister in 2004. Just look at that. Next thing, sir. I want people to look at it rather than me and you discussing about it, because it's these are all Guru Shishya Parampara. And to me, a little bit disappointment with Manmohan Singh ji that he didn't stand up for his Guru. Anyway,
it's a very tricky question, I would say, because every time there was a function, because after the demise of Mr. Narasimha Rao from 2004 to 2017, birth anniversary and death anniversary in Delhi, privately, not from the government side. And Mr. Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh would definitely make it a point to attend those functions. And whenever he came to these functions, he would, go on to say a few nice words about Mr. Narasimha Rao. Not publicly, but at least to all of us. So he had that, guru feeling for him. And in fact, he went on record so many times that he's been my mentor, and then he's been friend, philosopher, and guide. Even recently, 1 month back, also he said the same thing. You see. So he had a lot of soft corner for him, respect for him. But then, how it is, the detractors were still at play. They said that if you take his name, or if you really, bring him back onto the circulation, then, the vote bank will go away, and then all sorts of things, you see. So he was, in a way, tied down, you see. He just couldn't come out of that shell. Perhaps that's the reason.
See, now I see a dichotomy emerging, sir. Suddenly, Indian National Congress want to claim credit for whatever Sri Narasimha Rao achieved in those 5 years, but they only want the goodness. They don't seem to want the other things that they had tarred him with, like, for example, the Babri Masjid. How do you explain this dichotomy? It seems to me pure, plain hypocrisy, but I could be wrong.
Well, they try to put this entire episode of this we call Babri Masjid issue onto him, and they just washed off their hands. But then, when in 2014 and 15, when Prime Minister Modi took Mr. Narasimha Rao's name again and again, in most of his campaigns, he was taking Mr. Narasimha Rao's name, you see, and especially the injustice meted out to him. And he was very rightly saying that he has contributed so much to the country, and he has changed the fortunes of millions of people in the country. And this shouldn't have happened to him. I mean, he was when he was taking his name again and again, they thought, perhaps the Congress party thought that he was trying to appropriate, like what he has done in the case of Vallabhbhai Patel and Subhash Chandra Bose. Probably they thought, the Congress party thought that they're going to appropriate Mr. Narasimha Rao also into their accounts. So that's when they got little worried. In fact, I don't want to name the person, but one of the senior ministers until 2014, he came down to Hyderabad and he was telling us, "As bygones are bygones, you come around and then come to have Gandhi Bhavan make a statement in favor of Congress party." I told him very clearly. In fact, my brother was also, Mr. Rajeshwara was also alive at that time. We told him very clearly that, there's a perception in the public that Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and my father, Mr. Narasimha Rao, did not get along well. There was some, differences of opinion. Now, it's important to dispel that, wrong notions or whatever the notions are. You just start from there. We coming to Gandhi Bhavan, that can happen anytime. But start from Delhi. Let there be proper rapprochement if that is going to be the, that idea. So when I told him, they said, "Okay, that's no problem. I'll get back to you." And again, for 4 long years, he was not visible anywhere. And Raoji came to Hyderabad so many times, but I don't know why, but he never took the name of Mr. Narasimha Rao. Again, it so happened that recently, 2 months back, so KCR, he started telling us that, his centenary has to be celebrated in a very big way. In fact, it's already on the record. He says it has to be celebrated all over the world, all over the nation, in every possible state. Every level, you see, his contributions are so much, he has really changed the course of the country. And, if you don't respect a person of this stature, and more so he's from our place, from Telangana, he's our son of the soil. So we are going to really do it in such a, big way that, we'll all be happy that right respects have been paid to the leader, you see. When he said all these things, perhaps, the local PCC or, this part of Congress party felt a little insecure. They again came back to me, asking us to come and join in their celebration. They also announced year-long celebrations, and they wanted us to participate. To them also I said the same thing. He is the Prime Minister of country, not Prime Minister of Telangana. So you start, the way, it has to be done. Start all over the country, because you have 5 states, or 4 or 5 states, Congress Party ruled states are there. You start from there. Maybe you can start some programs in Delhi and tell your overseas, Congress units to celebrate his, centenary in a proper way, and probably that will, bring back the goodwill once again. You see. I was trying to tell him that, but then let's see how it goes.
Indeed, sir. Let's see how it goes. In fact, under Modi, he has actually found a way to reach across party lines to honor people who have made genuine contributions to the country.
Absolutely, no doubt about that.
Who knows? Maybe there is a surprise in store for us in 2021, and Narasimha Rao ji would get his Bharat Ratna, much well deserved. We'll see.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So one of the interesting things that I wanted to mention, because we had the Bhumi Puja in Ram Mandir last week on 5th of August, and Dr. Subramanian Swamy had made a statement that the biggest contribution for Ram Temple came from 2 congressmen, Rajiv Gandhi for opening the locks, and Sri P V Narasimha Rao. And the reason he talked about P V Narasimha Rao ji is because of the far-sightedness on his part to take over the entire land around that mandir. So you see, he was playing, in my opinion, he was playing a chess game with any number of people. I don't know how many people he was playing a chess game, but it didn't matter what the other side made the move. The destination, the result wasn't going to change. That's how I looked at it. So what are your thoughts, sir? I mean, this is a very significant thing that he did. And it just kind of went quiet until this thing came up recently during the Supreme Court hearing.
Well, it was a considered stand by Mr. Narasimha Rao those days. If you have heard of any of his speech, he would say that we wanted a Bhavya Mandir for Ram. Ram, Bhagwan Ram is Bhagwan not only to the to a party, particular party, but he's Bhagwan to all of us. So he's as much a God to us as much as he's to anybody else. So that was his stand. And many may not know, I would like to tell something very interesting. After Babri Masjid issue, 4 of the states, 4 BJP ruled states were dismissed. And then, they were trying to come back there, in the 4 states. BJP's slogan those days was, we are going to make a Ram temple. That was the slogan. Mr. Narasimha Rao, what he said those days was, the Ram temple, why only BJP should do it? In fact, we are equally keen to do it. There's no problem about that. But we have to wait for the verdict of the Supreme Court. And he went around to make a new, trust consisting of some of the finest or the most credible, pontiffs of the country. He brought in so many of them, like all the Shankaracharyas belonging to, Saivites, Vaishnavites, Dvaita, Vishistadvaita, belonging to all schools of thought, and Akhadas of Ayodhya. All these people were brought in, and a wonderful, credible, trust was formed, and it was registered in 1995. Unfortunately, he didn't come back as a prime minister, so he didn't, take off after that. But then his intention was very clear that a Bhavya Mandir for Ram should be made. And he was very clear about that. And he did every possible effort to make that happen. And of course, the 60 acres which was taken around the site was basically to ensure that nothing happens, some private party should not come. Should really create some issues of there. That was the reason it was mainly to protect the entire disputed land. The 60 acres was what do you call taken by government states. Yeah.
Sir, we are about 50 minutes into our talk and time is just flying. And I would like to ask you this last question. How do you plan to take Sri P V Narasimha Rao ji's legacy forward?
Well, Mr. Narasimha Rao never believed in legacy, as I told you. He was a person who would always believe in karma siddhanta. He was a karma yogi to the core. You see, he would always say that atitam anusandhanam bhavishyat avicharanam audasinyamapi prapti. That's how the sloka goes, you see, where he says, don't bother about what has happened. Don't bother about what is going to happen. Just, do the job of what is on your hands to the best of your ability and with utmost dedication. And that's what he's done. He just didn't think anything beyond that, you see. So it didn't matter, you see, whether there's going to be a legacy, no legacy, it didn't really bother him. Nor was he interested in creating a dynasty. See, all of us are, pursuing our own lines of activity. Two brothers were there in politics, but then they came up on their own. He never said that they should not get into politics, nor, he, overtly tried to help anybody. My eldest brother, Mr. Ranga Rao, was in politics in 1962, and he became an MLA in 1989. He had to wait for 27 long years. So was the case with my second brother, Mr. Rajeshwar Rao, who was in politics in somewhere in 67, 68 onwards. He was very active in university politics. And he became an MP sometime in 1996, you see. So he allowed them to grow. He gave all the freedom to all of us to, pursue our own lines. But he never thought that there should be a legacy. There should be someone to take on the flag. He never believed in that. And we've been brought up that way. So we never thought that we should take on the mantle on ourselves and then take it forward. You see, it is not a dynasty. It's a democracy where everyone will have equal chance to prove themselves. So that's what he believed in. That's what we believe in.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful discussion that we had today with you, Dr. Sri Prabhakar Rao Garu. Viewers, we are now going into the questions phase. And I would request you to stop sending your questions because I have a fairly long list to work with. And we are already 53 minutes into the program. The first question is from Pawan Timmavajjala. I'd like to know how P V Narasimha Rao Garu handled the situation in AP as CM. Also, how was he able to pursue the land reforms in Andhra?
Okay, it was 1973, the moment he became the chief minister. His land reforms were very close to his heart. If you look at his background, his guru was Swami Ramananda Tirtha, who was left of center, not just left of center, but very, very left of center. That kind of a person. He was more left than the Marxists. People used to say that. So Swami Ramananda Tirtha had a very, very strong influence on Mr. Narasimha Rao. So when he became the chief minister, he took that as one of the missions. He introduced land reforms, and people may know this. He brought land reforms through an ordinance. He just didn't tell anyone. You see. In fact, our family, very close family relatives, they didn't know about this. We have lost, in fact, our own land. We had to give up. You see. We had 1,200 acres of land in our village, out of which 850 acres were given away. So is the case with most of the relatives. Everybody lost chunks of land. So that was his commitment to land reforms. He always believed that the disparity of land holdings in the villages is the main cause for social tensions, and to cut down the social tensions, one of the ways is to create a ceiling. Nobody should have one landlord has thousands of acres, and some land is labourer has no land at all. This is going to create lot of problems in the society. So he thought the best way to diffuse that tension would be to introduce these land reforms. But then, as things turned out, especially in the coastal areas where the land was very valuable, very precious. So when they lost their land, they became very angry with Ministership, which had to happen. So they all ganged up. They ensured that is there sitting as the chief minister. It's going to be a problem for all the landlords. So the best way is to get him dismissed. That's what they've done.
Very unfortunate indeed. And viewers, you may not know this fact, but Sri Ramananda Tirtha gave India 3 chief ministers: Sri Narasimha Rao Garu, Sri Shankar Rao Balwantrao Chauhan, and Virendra Patil, and 1 prime minister, Sri Narasimha Rao Garu, 1 home minister, because S.B. Chauhan became a home minister also.
I think there's some disturbance somewhere, Mr. Iyer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so maybe you can clarify this, sir. I'm just talking about Ramananda Tirtha Garu's Sishyas. 3 of them went on to become ministers. Narasimha Rao Garu, Sri S.B. Chauhan, and Sri Virendra Patil. And 1 became the prime minister, and 1 went on to become the home minister. I don't know what other things Sri S.B. Chauhan did at the center, but that tells you something. We are Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Ramanand Tirtha was a very wonderful leader, I would say. There's a shloka in Sanskrit which what it says is amantram aksharam nasti moolam anaushadam ayogyah purusho nasti yojakah tatra durlabha. It means that there's nobody who is incompetent. To get the right guru is the most difficult thing. And I would say Mr. S.B. Chauhan or Virendra Patilji or Mr. Narasimha Rao, they were very, very lucky to have a guru of that stature. He was a politico-spiritual guru who actually shaped them up to become the leaders. Although he retired from politics, but he never left them. In fact, Mr. Narasimha Rao used to always say this, that whatever he is, in the political field, he was everything to Swami Ramananda Tirtha. In fact, after his death, he started 2 organizations in his memory, and I am president of one of the organizations. We do a lot of social service to in line with Swamiji's objectives. So they were very lucky to have a guru of that nature. Mr. S.B. Chauhan, as you know, was the chief minister of Maharashtra. Virendra Patil was also the chief minister of Karnataka, and both of them grew to become the leaders, cabinet ministers in center. So it was a group of centers of Delhi. It was very nice to see them, interacting with each other.
The next question is from Veerabhadra Rao Garu. He says, would P V Narasimha Rao Garu opposed AP bifurcation if he were alive in 2013-14?
That's a $1 million question, you see. Things were different in 1972-73. There was one agitation asked for separate Telangana those days. And Mr. Brahmandar Reddy was the chief minister at that time. And, ultimately turned out to be that they replaced Mr. Brahmandar Reddy, and Mr. Narasimha Rao became the chief minister. I mean, they were satisfied with that. But the same thing happened subsequently also. There was as to compensate this, there was an Andhra agitation in the other region. And it went very violent. And then ultimately they were happy with Mr. Narasimha Rao getting replaced. So Mr. Narasimha Rao was a Telanganite. There's no doubt about that. He was, wanting a lot of benefits to come to this side at that point of time. But when he became the prime minister, for him, he can't be, put into one slot, the one area or one region. He was the prime minister of the country, so he had to have an equal, he viewed everybody in the country equal, I would say. So it's a very, those days, this question never came up when he was a prime minister, whether we should bifurcate the state or not. So I would say it's a question which cannot be answered now, because it's a fictitious question right now. It wasn't relevant at that point of time. So if you had been alive, we don't know how we would react, right?
So you have stayed out of politics, right? You never joined any political party up until now. How do you foresee the future of INC and Congress and the family, Gandhi family?
Well, I would say that a lot of things have to be done in that party. Unfortunately, two elections, 2014 and 2019, a lot of difficult, the numbers on MPs came down drastically. So there has to be a lot of introspection as what's going wrong. I think you still have 4 more years to go for the elections, and unless they really work very hard in the next 4 years, there's going to be a lot of difficulty next election also. So it definitely requires for them to work very, very hard, and lots and lots of work has to be put in there. All the old people who left the party have to be brought back, and new generation, right thinking people have to be brought in. So a lot of work needs to be done. That's what I foresee for the Congress party. Yeah. Although you just mentioned that I have not been in politics. Yes, I agree with you, but then I watched the politics so closely that I know most of the happenings in the last 20 years at least in the party and in the country. So I've consciously kept away from politics. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. This is the last question I have. Did Sri Kanchi Paramacharya Chandrasekhar Saraswati have any influence on Sri P V Narasimha Rao? This is from Venkatraman Ramakrishnan. This is the last question for the day, sir.
Absolutely. He was one of his disciples. Kanchi Paramacharya is a very, very renowned person. And Narasimha Rao was his disciple. He was also a disciple of Shankaracharya of Sringeri. He was basically spiritualistic in his attitude. So whenever he went to them, he spent a lot of time discussing spiritual matters. Definitely, he had a lot of influence on Mr. Narasimha Rao, on his spiritual leanings. I would say that much. Not on his political, leanings, but definitely on his spiritual leanings. They had a lot of influence.
Sir, that brings to a close our wonderful conversation about Sri Narasimha Rao today. And it is my hope that you will come back on our platform and we'll have more such stimulating discussions. And
Sure.
This is the year of centenary of Sri Narasimha Rao Garu. I am very, very hopeful that we'll have you back for another hangout on a different topic. But until then, thank you very much, sir, and namaskaram.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raya. Thank you.